Basically, this happened when I was 17 during the summer. I would often get a vanilla frappe with cream on top after school, right? And it cost about £2.60 with cream, and it was $2.40 without cream. So one day I went to buy my frappe after my mother had picked me up. After counting the pile of coins twice, she stated she didn't have enough spare change in the car for the cream top, but I said that it was fine, and I just took what she gave me. I took the change, accepted it, and I'd forego the cream this time around. As I was in the queue, I kept counting my change, out of boredom. I also had an obsessive habit of counting, just in case I made a mistake, so as to save the embarrassment of realizing that I was short of money in front of the cashier. So I counted the money 6 times, making sure to space out the coins so as to not miss any coins as I was counting, then proceeded to hold it in my clutched fist. Suddenly a thought popped into my head, and I thought, hey, wouldn't it be nice if my money suddenly multiplied? Keep in mind, this wasn't a thought that I initiated myself. It was just something that randomly popped into my head that I had no reason to think about and did not feel really natural, if you know what I mean. I entertained the thought as a joke afterwards because I knew this kind of a thing would never happen to me. And not only that, it was physically impossible. Fast forward, I get to the cashier and order my frappe. And as I go to pay, I realize that I have 4 times the amount of change in my palm as before. Out of nowhere, more than enough money to buy a cream topping. My eyes probably tripled in size. I realized that I was starting to look crazy to the cashier, so I composed myself and acted like nothing had happened. Smiled, got my drink with extra cream, and left. On my way out, I was frantically trying to bend the new coins that I had found in my fist. I thought they must have been fake or something. But no, they were all real, all right. I got to the car and told my mother, and she admitted that she had prayed for me to be able to afford it. So the thought had popped into my head, and it happened at the same time that my mother was praying. I guess it was something telepathic, and it was some kind of a message notification from God, the Matrix programmers, my mom, or whoever. Basically, I ended up with more change than when I started. I know that didn't happen on accident, and it had to have been some kind of intervention from someone or something. Two things happened recently, and it's messing with my wife and I. Although minor, I didn't think much of it until I stumbled on this forum. So 2 weeks ago, we ran out of paprika, straight up empty bottle or container. We didn't have any in the back or hidden in our pantry. We did our grocery shopping that weekend and bought a little container of paprika. We started putting our stuff away, and what's in the very front of our pantry? A new container of paprika. We laughed and we were confused, like, oh boy, how did we miss this bottle? But then the same thing happened to me again this week. My wife wanted to try a new recipe that called for red wine vinegar. We never bought red wine vinegar in the 5+ years we've been married. Not by accident, never. So we do our groceries, buy a bottle of red wine vinegar, and head home, put our stuff away, and what do we suddenly have in our pantry? An unopened bottle of red wine vinegar that conveniently has the date March 2021 that's labeled on it. I don't know if this is a glitch, but I definitely can't explain how this happened. The red wine situation freaked us out a bit, so I thought I'd share it. So a while ago, maybe 5 years or so, me and some friends broke into an abandoned house. The front door was completely blocked off and sealed. You would have had to destroy it to get in that way. We got in by breaking a window in the backyard and climbing in. It was a long abandoned home. The architecture was from the early 1900s, maybe even late 1800s. It was quite interesting, actually. We found a bunch of old books, newspapers, and notes, gone brownish and yellow from age, with dates on them from the 1920s and 30s. I remember one handwritten note that had the date May 1930 something. I can't remember the exact year, but it was in the 30s at the top, and it said something like, "Dear so-and-so, how's your family? How's your child with the flu? Are they alright?" And blah blah blah, stuff like that. Anyways, there was a bunch of crap everywhere. All over the place. You could barely walk. Destroyed furniture, a doll collection, a broken grand piano, and books and stuff, like I had mentioned. This is just important to remember for the story. So we went to explore the basement of this house, but we couldn't because the stairs leading down were destroyed. The first 2 steps of the top were there, then there was a giant gap, then the very last step before the bottom. The stairs, what was left of them, were old and crappy looking. They were cracked, dark brown, and moldy. So we said screw it, and we just took off. The next day we went back with another friend, and this time there was a ladder laid flat over the giant gap in the stairs, with rugs acting like makeshift steps. We thought this was a little weird, but figured somebody else must have come in when we weren't there and laid the ladder over the gap to get to the basement. We ended up climbing down the ladder and exploring ourselves. After that, we left again. The next day, for some reason, we went back again. This time, though, the stairs were intact. No ladder, no giant gap. All the steps were there. And I'm not talking about repaired. If somebody had repaired them, they would have looked brand new compared to everything else in the house. New wood and new everything else that would have been necessary to put in a new case of stairs. But they didn't. What was missing before and was now there looked just as old and crappy as everything else in the house. Old, dark brown, cracked, moldy wood. These stairs were not repaired. They were never broken to begin with, which was completely impossible because they were. We had seen them broken the night before, and there was no way that somebody brought tools into the house through the sealed front door and all the crap lying all over the place and repaired only the staircase with old wood that was a century old. There's just no way that would have happened. We kind of freaked out after seeing the stairs repaired and quickly left after that. I'm not really a supernatural kind of person. I don't believe in ghosts or even the glitch in the matrix phenomenon, or anything related to it for that matter. But to this day, those stairs give me the heebie-jeebies. I have no idea how they fixed themselves, and I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes. I know it sounds crazy, but it happened. This takes place in the mid-1990s. I was a young lad in my 20s. Those years, my family would take cruises every 2 years, and it was like a family reunion type thing. This one happened to be in the Bermuda Triangle area, so what I'm about to describe might be normal for that part of the world. Me and my cousin were playing ping pong in a room with only one ping pong table in there. The paddles and the balls were kept outside the room. So when we walked in the room, it was just the 2 of us. 2 paddles, 1 table, and 1 ping pong ball. Now we're playing back and forth as usual, and one gets a score as the ball falls onto the floor. We go looking for this ball that can't escape anywhere from the room, not even in a crack under the floor. But it's nowhere to be found after searching this entire room. And I must say the room that we were in was pretty small, so it wasn't like there was a lot of searching that had to be done. We of course brushed it off and just go get another ball and continue playing. Mind you, we had to go out of the room to get this ball. We continue playing as normal, and we hear the sound of a second ball dropping to the floor from somewhere. Then we start tripping out because it was the ball that we had just lost earlier. It made absolutely no sense. How could this thing just fall out of nowhere onto the floor? With my cousin as my witness, how does this happen, and what's going on? In the summer of 2014, I was working in Nagoya, Japan, as a teacher at an international preschool. I had a bit of a commute to work, but it wasn't so bad, maybe 45 minutes, 50 minutes tops. For those not in the know, Japan is one of the most punctual countries on the face of the planet. If you by some unforeseen occurrence happen to be on a subway train which is late due to a mechanical or other issue, you can actually go to the station manager and request a ticket, which you can present to your boss showing that you were late because of the train. Near the end of my journey was a short bus ride. The bus left every day from the station at the same time. I believe the time was 8:21, and it was maybe a 10 to 15 minute trip. Every day I would meet a coworker at the bus station and we would catch the same bus in. We would pop into a nearby 7-Eleven and grab snacks for the day before walking the rest of the way in. The walk was short from the convenience store to work, less than 10 minutes. We had to arrive by 9 every day to get set up for the kids whom would arrive by 10. So if we left the bus stop at 8:21, figuring 15 minutes, we would stop at 8:36, pop into the convenience store for at the most 5 minutes, absolute most 5 minutes, and leave at 8:41, then take a 10-minute walk to work and arrive at 8:51 max. This is figuring on the higher side of everything, and it was usually much less time than that. But this is where the story starts to get really, really weird. So just picture this. One day, business as usual. We're on the bus on time, we left 7-Eleven on time, and began walking with the timeline mentioned earlier. We arrive and are greeted by our Japanese colleagues informing us that we were late. We figured that maybe we messed around a little bit too much or something, and we were only a few minutes late somehow. But this was not the case. We had arrived at 9:50 in the morning. Our boss was super angry. We were in a mad scramble to get everything ready for that day for the kids. There was no way that we could have taken a walk that we always took, that usually takes about 10 minutes, and arrived an hour late. My coworker seemed a little bit freaked out by this. He never really wanted to discuss it. My boss, oddly enough, never brought it up again after being really angry about it that day, and it has not happened since. I have traced the routes on Google Maps several times and keep coming up blank. Also, Japan does not observe daylight savings time, so that theory is out. I was heating up some soup and decided that I would have some naan bread with it. I had bought this pack of mini naan bread from Costco, so I went into the fridge and took out 4 pieces, put 3 on top of a paper towel, and kept 1 in my hand. I nibbled on the 4th piece, eating about half of it while waiting for my soup to finish. I then put the half-eaten piece with the other 3, got my soup out of the microwave, and wrapped the naan bread in the paper towel to bring it with me with my soup to my desk. I sit down at my desk, unwrap the paper towel, and there are 4 full pieces of mini naan. I flipped each one of them over and over, trying to find any bite marks I might have left, thinking maybe I hadn't fully eaten one of them, but they were all perfectly intact. Then I thought maybe I imagined biting into it, but I still had some tiny bites of bread in my mouth, and I hadn't eaten anything else that day. My boyfriend and I were taking a walk through a long park trail on the outskirts of Seattle, and we just happened to go down the Life is a Simulation and Mandela Effect rabbit hole. We had an ongoing joke about this since we have so many strange experiences. We'll casually be like, well, the simulation is messed up today, and we noticed a period of shift in luck between each other. So we'll joke, it's my reality today and I'm player 1. I'm just giving you context of our joking mentalities at this time and how it was so strange because of the timing. We just happen to be talking about everything and how life has been so strange ever since we started paying attention to this. The park wasn't very crowded at all that day, so we were just walking behind a single family with 2 women and a few kids running around, probably more than 50 yards ahead of us. My boyfriend jokingly pointed to the birds and said, "Yep, it's all fake." And I jokingly pointed to the family ahead and said, "So is that family. Someone is probably watching us, laughing, talking about it." And in that exact moment, the 2 women completely freeze in their tracks, aren't talking anymore, and turn around and stare in our direction, completely in sync. I thought they heard me, but I repeated to him that even with the strong echo, that's impossible with the distance, because I pretty much whispered. They continued to stare, though, without moving a muscle. We both looked behind us, like, are they looking at us? But no one was in sight. They just froze. No movement. The kids were just standing around silent too. It lasted for such a long time since we were so far away, and eventually we had to walk to where they were standing. But they just continued to stare into nothing as we walked past them finally. It was so uncomfortable, but I didn't feel right to comment, and being an innocent family, we weren't going to call them out for anything. They weren't bothering anybody really, even with all that weird behavior. We truly just didn't understand what was going on. It took us the rest of the walk to try to digest what had happened, and we weren't even in a joking mood anymore because it was just so strange. They didn't talk, no emotion. They were just looking, and they were just frozen in one direction. First they were looking at us, but as they just stood there, they didn't move and they just stared into nothing. As soon as we were about 20 feet past, they just resumed walking and talking like nothing had happened, and their kids started moving around and playing again. It gives me the chills just to think about it to this day. Okay, this is a little crazy, and I've been seeing this a lot lately, where time moves slow or fast. So today, I got up at around 4 a.m., like I usually do, to see my boyfriend off to work. I messaged him at 9 when he goes on break. I was in the living room till 9:15 at least. After we finished talking, I went into my office to get some work done for the day. I usually play videos or watch TV while I work. I'm a painter. Anyways, I started a new show yesterday, and the episodes are between 39 and 45 minutes long. I was on episode 2 when I started it today. I am now on episode 13. It's been a little more than 2.5 hours, yet somehow I watched 11 hours and 40 minutes worth of episodes. I just looked at the time so I could chat with my BF on his lunch at noon. There's no explanation for me watching that many episodes. It's just impossible. I don't know what's going on, but lately time seems to be really messed up. My dad usually finished work at around 5 p.m., but this night it was really busy, and he rang to say that he'd probably be coming home at around 9. At 7 p.m., I was inside of our living room watching a football match with our dog, Jesse, who is now deceased, and he was snuggled up on the couch. My sister was in the kitchen doing her homework. We were the only two people downstairs as my mom was taking a shower and my brother was in his bedroom. To make it easier to follow, I'll describe what each of us heard as we were all in different parts of the house. Shortly after, I hear a key enter the front door. Our door can only be opened with a key from the outside, and the usual distinct sound of it opening. Jesse, our dog's ears perked up, and I remember being excited because this meant Dad was home and we'd be able to watch the rest of the match together. Usually when he arrived home from work, he would stick his head in, but I thought because he was having a long day, he was probably going to be really tired. So I wasn't surprised when he didn't do that. I just figured that he was in the house, and I just allowed him to just mind his own business. About 30 seconds later, I hear this person start walking up the stairs. Like a lot of people, I can easily recognize footsteps, and this definitely sounded like the usual slow way my dad walks up the stairs. I thought no more of it and went back to watching the game. The stairs are in between the rooms where my sister and I both were, and she heard the same thing as well as the front door opening like I did. My mom, who was in the bathroom, hears the same footsteps, and when they reach the top of the stairs, she too assumes that it's my dad and shouts out to him and says, "Is that you, Niall? You're home earlier than you said you would be." But after she says that, she gets no response. My brother hears all the same things and notices how strange it was that my dad didn't reply to my mom, as he could hear who he thought was my dad in the landing standing outside the bathroom. He remembers there was about 30 seconds of silence until he hears more footsteps. This time it's the sound of steps walking up the attic stairs. He doesn't ever hear anybody walk back down from the attic after that, which is also pretty creepy. Here's the thing. My dad never came home, even though everybody heard him open the door and walk up both flights of stairs. My mom ends up ringing his workplace and he answers, confirming that he's still at work. We're all freaked out by this stage, so much so that my brother and I end up going up to the attic together with a knife and a baseball bat because we thought that there was an intruder in our home. We never figured it out, and it was the only time something like that has ever happened. This happened in 2018. My mom's sister and I had gone to a Halloween festival, and it was a long road trip. We took my mom's van, which is pretty big and very loud on the road because of bad shocks and it being really old. I hadn't spoken to my sister in a while after she moved out to live with her boyfriend. My sister seemed kind of gloom on the way up and anxious, and then she spilled the beans about her breakup with her boyfriend. She was really down, and she explained that he never meant it to go farther than a fling, and that he wanted her to, quote, move out and find herself, and the usual BS you hear during breakups. My mom didn't really hear the story because of how loud it was, as I mentioned earlier. The car was loud on the road, and the radio was up front, so it was only me and my sister talking. I didn't hear her tell my sister anything, and it was more like gossip between the two of us, I guess. Nobody else had heard this, just me and my sister, and I mention this because it's important for the story. A couple of weeks after that, I'm talking to my mom. We lived together, and she had met up with my sister that day upon my sister's request. They had met at a cafe, and my sister was supposedly crying in the cafe as she told my mom the same story that she told me earlier, that her boyfriend wanted her to move out, and that the relationship was just a fling that had gone too far. So it was identical to the story, and after I heard it, I confessed that I'd known because my sister had told me during a road trip 2 weeks prior. Fast forward a couple of months and it's Christmas time, December 2018. I didn't hear anything about her getting a new place, and me not liking to gossip, I didn't ask about it, figuring she'd tell me if she wanted to about what she was doing. Well, she seemed so cheerful all night. I was curious if things had changed between her and her boyfriend, so then at the end of the night I asked her, so how are things with you and your boyfriend? She said things were great and proceeded to gush all about him. Obviously this piqued my curiosity, and I asked, oh, so you're not moving out then? She looked at me like I was insane, and when I explained our previous conversation that we had during our road trip, she claimed that I was hallucinating and that she never said anything like that to me. The next morning I asked my mom about when she'd met my sister at the cafe, and my mom rehashed and retold the whole scene with my sister crying that she had to move out of her boyfriend's place and all of that. So the next family get-together, this is January 2019, my mom and my sister are there, and I asked them about this. And this is where things get really weird because both my mom and my sister deny any of this. My sister denies ever breaking up with her boyfriend, and my mom denies ever meeting with my sister at the cafe to talk about this and everything that was just described earlier. It was really weird. It was like being in some kind of a real-life Twilight Zone, if you know what I mean. So now both my mom and my sister claim this never happened, and that I had to be hallucinating or something, and that this breakup never occurred at all, and that I was just imagining things. Well, shoot, I didn't want to really let this go because I thought it was really peculiar because of how emotional my sister was and her meeting with my mom. Even though my mom was denying it now, I still wanted to press further. I texted my sister and said, you told me that you were forced to find a new place because your BF said you needed to find yourself, so what changed? And again, the same response. My sister said she didn't know what I was talking about, and that we never had any kind of a conversation like that. And she even brought up the fact that our mom said that she never met her at the cafe. So now I'm just really feeling like a crazy person, and my sister seems to be getting way more aggravated about this, so I don't want to push it any further. I have several small dogs. They all get fed in the master bedroom at my home, but one of them, in particular, an adorable fat little Chiweenie named Luna, gets put in the closet to eat so she doesn't bully the other dogs out of their food. She isn't very happy that she's on a diet and will gladly starve the other dogs to appease her endless appetite. One morning when I went to put her carefully measured kibbles into her bowl in the closet with her eagerly dancing around my legs, I noticed that her bowl was gone. Thinking maybe she moved it from its usual spot after I fed her the night before, I looked everywhere in the closet, under the low-hanging clothes, anywhere she might have hidden it, and nothing. It was just gone. Having no other choice at the moment, since Luna would be the most distressed if she was delayed in her getting her breakfast, I put her kibble on the carpet in the closet so she could eat, and made a mental note to get her another bowl for her food. So doggy dinner time rolls around again, and I have a new bowl and another carefully measured scoop of kibble. I open the closet to feed her, and lo and behold, there is her bowl, right where it should be, exactly where it usually is, like it hadn't just returned from some otherworldly jaunt or something. While admittedly this is minor compared to some other posts here, this sort of thing is happening a lot since I moved onto this current property. Things are constantly disappearing, although not all of them reappear. I know where I used to live used to be Native American territory, and I just discovered I'm near a ley line, so maybe that has something to do with it. I'm not really sure, but there's just some strange happenings around these parts. My girlfriend and I recently rented an entire basement of a house. It's 2 large bedrooms. We use one as a living room, a bathroom, and a hallway between all of them. Our roommate/landlord is almost never home, and only ever comes downstairs to either go out to the garage or to go into the laundry room at the bottom of the stairs. He hasn't been around any of the times this has happened, so I wear only one kind of cologne, and it's been my trademark scent for over 20 years. Givenchy Zurius Rouge. Not exactly common, and it's a very distinct scent. After I stopped taking some medication that I was on, one of the unfortunate side effects was a minor change in my sense of taste and smell that seems to now be permanent even though I'm not on that medication any longer. Very little change overall, but specifically my favorite cologne now smells awful to me. It's like it's rancid or something. At one point I bought a new bottle because I thought the old one had gone bad, if that's possible, but the new bottle smelled exactly the same, just pretty terrible overall now. Everyone else says to me that it smells the same and it hasn't changed, so I keep it around because, in particular, my girlfriend still loves it, but I hardly wear it anymore because to me it just smells awful now. And now I have a near empty bottle and a brand new one that both smell like crap to me. But as the title mentions, everywhere that I go now, I'm smelling the scent of this cologne. Even though I no longer like it and rarely wear it, I'm smelling it everywhere for some reason, and I don't know why. The first time that it happened, my girlfriend and I were both in the bedroom together, and the door was open. We were the only ones down there, and suddenly there was this very, very strong smell. She says she didn't see me put on the cologne, and I agreed. I know I didn't put it on. So I get up, and there was a much stronger smell down the hallway and in the bathroom. The new bottle that I bought is on the dresser in the bedroom, but the old one is in the bathroom, and I figured maybe it fell down or dropped and broke or something. So I go find it. And it's not broken, nothing is wet, nothing is leaking, and it doesn't even have a strong smell on the bottle itself. The smell is coilingly strong in the hallway, so then I go grab the new bottle that's in the bedroom and it's completely intact, and there's no indication of any leakage or the bottle itself being cracked. We both comment on the weirdness, and then just as fast as it came, it was gone, no more smell. It happened again today, just now. It's definitely my cologne. It smells strange and vaguely rancid to me, and woodsy and sexy to her. No question that it's the cologne that I used to wear. It comes on strong and all at once. It's much stronger in the hallway and in the bathroom for some reason. It goes away just as fast after 30 to 45 minutes or so, fading in and out from time to time. And as I just mentioned, it just happened again. I can't quite get my head around being haunted by my own ghost, so I really don't know what to make of this at all, and why I'm smelling this cologne everywhere now. July 2020, I took a spontaneous solo road trip across the state of Nevada. On July 5th, 2020, I went to the Great Basin National Park. I climbed Wheeler Peak and I watched the sunset. I began the 4 to 6 hour descent back to my car after sundown. I was in the clearing just after passing Stella Lake, and it was completely dark by this point, relatively dark since there was a full moon. Also retroactively learned that there was a lunar eclipse earlier that day. It had to be after 10 p.m. I was heading back to my car on Wheeler Park Scenic Drive when 3 separate times for a few seconds it went from black as night to daylight and then back to black. The first time it happened I thought maybe my eyes were messed up for watching the sunset and I was just seeing spots or flashes, so I switched my flashlight off and began using a green glow stick instead because I thought my eyes had light damage. The glow stick along with the full moon was enough to see a few feet in front of me, but then it happened again. The second time I noticed that I could see all the ground all around me clear as day. The dirt, the shrubbery, everything was illuminated, and not with a green glow stick light. It looked like natural light, like it was brighter than the moonlight. I got uneasy and started looking around for somebody that was messing with me by pointing a flashlight at my direction or something, but there was nothing. Back to pitch black relatively. I pick up speed, becoming concerned that somebody is watching me, even though I'm supposed to be alone on the top of this mountain. When it happened the third and final time, I actually looked around me, and that's when I looked up and noticed that even the tops of the trees were illuminated, and the sky was baby blue for a few seconds, and then again it went back to black. I did not know what to make of it, but I was no longer concerned that a human was watching me. Humans are scary when you're a female alone on a mountaintop during the evening. However, whatever was doing this, I know was out of the controls of a regular human being and probably in the control of something much more powerful. What that was, I can't say. Nothing else happened the rest of the trail. I made it back to my car unscathed just before midnight and slept there overnight without any issues. I woke up just before 5 a.m. and headed back home. I was not drinking or on any kind of drugs. I was hydrated and had ate while watching the sunset and felt rested. I wasn't even tired. Nothing else out of the ordinary happened after that, but I've never been able to explain it. Has anybody else experienced something like this, or have any possible explanation for what happened to me? This happened a couple of days ago and I still can't explain it. Me and my boyfriend saw the movie Saw. Did the 3-day rental from Amazon and then we fell asleep about halfway through it. The next day we wanted to finish it, but the rental wasn't there. You get 24 hours to finish a movie once you've started, and this was much less than 24 hours later. I looked and I didn't get charged for it either. It literally never happened. The weirdest part is that we both remember watching the movie. We remember the jigsaw guy and we remember there being an escape room type thing. We both remember there being different levels they had to escape from, and someone died at every level. We both remember there being a few girls, a few guys. I think one of them was Asian. I looked up the plot of Saw to see if we did really watch it, and in Wikipedia it sounds like what I remember watching, so we put it on again, and it was completely different than what we remembered. It was nothing like what we remembered, and we both remembered the same thing, but I still can't figure out what we really watched. I don't have anything in my order history for this movie. I guess maybe we just don't remember it because we were really sleepy. But how did we misremember the same thing? How did two people remember something that didn't happen? Neither of us had ever seen any of the Saw movies. There's no way we just blended parts from all of them together. We were looking for a series to get into and decided on Saw. I vividly remember saying we should start at the beginning with the first one. I've been trying to look at the trailer for all the movies suggested, and so far none of them are what I remember at all. We never searched for the movies because we found it from the recommended page. I've Googled the things we think we remember and nothing. I've checked my order history on Amazon and my bank account every day since it happened. My BF doesn't have Amazon. We looked through our Netflix and Hulu history, and there's nothing there either for Saw. The only thing that makes sense at this point is that we fell asleep and didn't actually watch anything. But still, why do we both remember watching the same thing that never actually happened in the movie?